Today we're going to find the sides of a right triangle using SohCahToa by looking at these 4 examples. Let's start with our first example. The very first thing you want to do is always label the sides of the right triangle. And in this case, across the 90 degrees, we have 26 centimeters, and that's the hypotenuse. Across the 49 degrees, we have the opposite side, and x in this case is the adjacent side. Next, we want to find which formula we're going to use. So let's circle what we want to find. We want to find x, in this case, which is the adjacent, and they gave us the hypotenuse, which is 26 centimeters. Adjacent hypotenuse, that would be cosine. So let's go ahead and write down our formula for cosine. Cosine theta equals adjacent over hypotenuse. Remember, theta is the angle that they gave us. In this case, it's 49 degrees. So cosine of 49 degrees equals the adjacent, which is x, and the hypotenuse, which is in the denominator, which is 26 centimeters. So here, x is in the numerator, 26 is in the denominator. So in order to get rid of 26, we multiply both sides by 26, and we end up with 26 cosine of 49 equals x. And using our Desmos scientific calculator, we plug that in, and we get 17.06 centimeters. So that is x. Next, let's try another problem. Label your sides. So again, across the 90 degrees is the hypotenuse. That's always the hypotenuse. 63 degrees opposite that. That's the opposite side. And then they gave us the adjacent side, which is 7.2. Now, the formula we're going to use, we're trying to find x, which is the hypotenuse. They gave us the adjacent, which is 7.2. Again, in this problem, we're using cosine theta because we have the adjacent and we're looking for the hypotenuse. Let's write down our formula. Cosine theta equals adjacent over hypotenuse. Remember, theta is the angle that they gave us, so cosine of 63 equals the adjacent, which is 7.2, and the hypotenuse, which is x. This is a little bit different than the last problem because now x is in the denominator. Now I want to stop here for a second and let you know that the math is going to be a little bit different. Some problems we multiply when x is in the numerator, and some problems we divide when x is in the denominator. I am going to attach 2 additional videos for you to watch. One of them does more examples when x is in the numerator, and one of them does more examples of when x is in the denominator. So if you need to see more sample problems for each type, there'll be 2 videos attached to the distance learning number 9 that you're doing today. Again, you don't need to watch them, but I recommend if you're having difficulty and you want to see more problems because you're having trouble and you want to improve your grade, this is a great way to do so. So let me go ahead and continue the math here. So x is in the denominator. We're going to multiply then both sides by x. And we end up with x cosine of 63 equals to 7.2. Again, because x is multiplying a cosine of 63, cosine 63 is a number, so we're going to divide by cosine of 63 on both sides, and we end up with 7.2 divided by cosine of 63. Again, going to our Desmos scientific calculator that we practiced yesterday, we end up with 15.86 centimeters. And that is problem number 2. Let's go to question 3. In this one again, label the sides. our hypotenuse. There's no information there. 37 degrees opposite side to that is x. And the one next to the 37 degrees is 15.4, which is adjacent. So in this case, we have the opposite and we have the adjacent. So the adjacent is 15.4 and the opposite is x. This one, we're now using tangent because tangent is opposite over adjacent. So tangent theta equals opposite over adjacent. Again, theta is the angle that's given, so plug in that angle into our formula. Tangent of 37 equals opposite. Here, x is in the numerator, like the first problem that we did, and 15.4 is the adjacent. So in order to get rid of 15.4 and solve for x, we're going to multiply both sides by 15.4. We end up with 15.4 tangent of 37 equals x. Plug into our decimal scientific calculator, and we end up with 11.60 centimeters. And there is our missing side, x. Our next question, again, label 16 centimeters is the hypotenuse. It's across the 90. Across the 20 degrees is our opposite, and next to is the adjacent side. In this case, what we are looking for is x, and what they gave us is 16. So we know our hypotenuse. We want to find our opposite. So opposite and hypotenuse is in the sine trig ratio. Sine theta equals to opposite over hypotenuse. Again, don't forget theta is the angle that they gave us. So sine of 20 degrees equals to the opposite, which is x. Again, x is in the numerator, like previous problems we've seen, and 16 is in the denominator, which is 16. It's on the bottom. Multiply both sides by 16. We end up with 16 sine of 20 equals x. And again, on our decimals scientific calculator, we end up with 5.47 centimeters. So before we finish up here, again, I want to remind you that there are 2 additional videos that explain when x is in the numerator and when x is in the denominator and how to do the algebra for sine, cosine, and tangent for those type of problems. So if you need to watch them, go ahead and do so. In the future video, we're going to be practicing finding angles. So we need to really get used to finding the sides of a right triangle first, because our goal in the end is to be able to solve a right triangle. And what that means is finding all 6 parts, the 3 angles, and the 3 sides. So when we're finding sides of a right triangle, currently we have Pythagorean theorem where we can find the sides. And now we have sine, cosine, and tangent, which can help us find the sides of a right triangle also. We will start talking about finding angles in the future. That'll require us doing a little bit of different math, which first we're going to have to practice on the calculator with those functions I told you, sine inverse, cosine inverse, and tangent inverse. But for now, go ahead and practice these. If you need additional help, again, I am available through Remind, or you can email me. I check those things continuously, so I am a night owl, like I told you before. So if you need to contact me, go ahead and do so. But again, I want to remind you that there are hundreds of videos out there on YouTube. There's lots of support out there for you. I'm here for you, number one. But again, if you're shy or you don't, you want to try it on your own first, feel free to do so. But again, I am here to support you. I will again be available when needed. For now, have a good day.